Hello and welcome everyone to today's special live stream. It's wonderful to have you here with us. We are starting off on a new adventure in our Sacred Earth program within Central America. And the energy of something new always carries a level of excitement that I cherish. Today, we're going to dive into one of my favorite topics, sacred site work, and explore some exciting opportunities ahead for the Evolution One community. So, what do we have cooking for you? Our Belize expedition is coming up in February. And unlike any other expedition in the past, this will be an entirely remote expedition, meaning there's no one on site, not Asil, not the team, not anyone. With so many of the community getting initiated into Earthkeepers work earlier this year, we felt ready to get to the next level in this sacred site work. This next level is remote attunements in some of the most energetically potent sites in Central America. Sacred sites hold their power regardless of physical distance. By tuning remotely, we can access even the most secluded and untouched places with our consciousness, preserving their pristine energetic state while deeply connecting with their power. Now, as I mentioned, this is our first remote expedition, and it is made possible by the many Earth Keepers we've trained to work with sacred sites remotely. But don't worry if you've not undergone this training. By joining us, you'll not only be benefiting by contributing immensely, but understanding that your presence and your energy matters. And the many people that have joined expeditions before can attest to being very affected by the energy of the sacred site work. And they've been transformed as humans, despite not having been initiated as Earth Keepers. We're going to continue on with our expedition in Mexico, which will be in June 2025. And for this one, you'll have the opportunity to join us in person. So we've got two very exciting expeditions, one that's going to be remote, one that you'll have the opportunity to join us in person. And in between, there's going to be some Earth Keeper cycles going on. So do another training, spin that up. The guides have spoken many times about the importance of working with sacred sites and with the Earth's energetic grid. By doing this work, we're not just healing ourselves, but we're also healing and aligning the global grid, contributing to the elevation of human consciousness and the planet's well being. We're excited to share these powerful expeditions with you, and we're going to talk about those now. So I'm going to invite Asil to join me here, and I'm looking forward to our conversation about this sacred site work, and then we're going to have a transmission that will follow. Welcome, Asil.
Hello, Crystal. Thanks
Oh.
for the wonderful intro.
We're warming everybody up and letting them know what's happening.
It's important. It's a lot of things are happening as everyone's witnessing. A lot of changes, a lot of challenges, ups and downs, and powerful inner processes are happening for humans everywhere around the globe.
Yeah.
And when the guide started to talk about the sacred site work that needs to happen around the world, and they started to send me to different places around the world, I thought, oh my God, this is just like for one person like me to do this work, traveling all around the world, and each country has like hundreds of sacred sites. I'm never going to be able to finish what they're asking me to do. This is just like, this is impossible at that scale. And they said, the sacred site work is so important and imperative to the evolution of humanity's consciousness. And apparently, human consciousness is held and supported by the Earth's consciousness. And the
Mhm.
Earth's consciousness has energy lines, just like the human body has energy lines. So the Earth has an energy body with energy channels and lines. And on these lines, and very often on these crossings of these energetic lines, humans have put their sacred sites on top of that, because they realized, oh wow, this is a really special place. It's
Right.
energetically strong, it's beautiful, people have healings, people have miraculous experiences, spirits are talking to them, they have all kinds of things that they experience. So humans across thousands of years deemed specific places in their regions as sacred,
Mhm.
right? So that's how different lineages developed and put their sacred sites on top of these places. And then wars came and conflict came, and another civilization came, and they said, oh, we like this sacred site. We're going to put our thing on top of their thing.
Right.
And so if you go to some of these sacred sites, Crystal, and you have been to many of them with me, there's multiple layers of previous civilizations on top of the same sacred site, on top of the same place. But obviously, the place was there before humans were there,
Right.
right? And in that very same, vein, there are certain sites that are just potent nature sites that humans have not put anything on top because it was so sacred or so difficult to reach that they decided, hey, on top of this mountain, we're not going to build anything. The mountain itself is going to be a sacred site.
Yeah.
Right? And so this work has really become a significant pillar of this delivery that the guides provide and that we as Evolution One provide to humanity.
Yeah. It's amazing. And I've been getting a lot of questions about this as I go out into the world, and people ask, "What does Evolution One do?" And I'm talking about this work. I get questions like just what you were answering. Well, is it a matter of the site, is already energetically potent, or do people decide that this is gonna be the field that they create, and is it the people that make the site? And so I explain it's the site has energetic significance before anything was placed there, but there is, an energy to, keeping that connection to the potency alive. So, can you explain maybe a little more about our role? Because, yeah, the sites are energetically powerful. What do we have to do with that?
So the sites are energetically powerful, as you said, and then humans develop their own sites on top of it, to some of them at least. Then there is some sort of co creation. So when we apply meaning and when we connect to that energy, and people bring in prayer and they bring in their own energies to those places, then this energetic opening is being utilized for personal growth, for healing, for transformation, for the civilization's you know evolution or protection. There's many reasons people utilize the energy that emerges from a site. Imagine it to be like an underground water source that's there. It's always there, and then someone comes in and puts in a well, and suddenly everyone can drink from that water that's
Yes.
like coming out to the surface like a well.
Yeah.
And in that very similar analogy, humans are co-creators in this amplifying the energy of an energetic site. Now it gets more interesting when humans develop entire networks, right? They basically create a site here, a site there, and they connect these sites with each other. So it develops a network of energetic sites that basically hold up an entire field. And so, therefore, each religion, each lineage has their own network.
Mm.
Imagine it to be like a subway system, right? It's like one line here and one line here, and they have like crossings and so on. And sometimes there is like a network built on top of a network, on top of a network, and so on. And what's fascinating to me is some of these early networks that were developed were actually not humans. They were developed by otherworldly civilizations. So, the initial and the earliest networks of sacred sites were established by other civilizations that basically said, well, whatever consciousness is going to grow here, being human consciousness,
Yeah.
is going to require that kind of energetic support for its consciousness.
Mhm.
And therefore, we're going to develop this as part of our gift to humanity. So there is multiple otherworldly sacred sites, and you've experienced some of them, right? They're
Oh,
distinct. They're so distinct. They're so different.
mhm.
They definitely feel like another intelligence, civilization, or technology being present at that site more than just what humans did with it.
Yeah.
So in that sense, we never really. Sometimes we know what we're going into when we go to a sacred site, but very often we don't know. We may go to an archaeological site, and then suddenly we feel much more there. Sometimes we'll have visitations from protective spirits, or we'll have visitations from their ancestors. Sometimes we'll have visitations from these otherworldly civilizations that have built their network along those sacred sites. So it's kind of like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. And in that sense, I'm super excited every time we open up a new country to go to visit. Then there is a lot of research that goes into that, right? We have an entire team that's dedicated to researching these sacred sites, these countries, finding out where are the most powerful nature spots, the most pristine. Where is the most powerful mountain that's been revered as a sacred mountain? Where did some of the historical civilizations or historical society develop their sacred sites, be it archaeologically now established as a sacred site or UNESCO World Heritage,
Yeah.
or it's an active site that's currently being utilized for a contemporary lineage.
Mhm.
So there's a diversity in sacred sites. And on top of that, because we don't want to just like be okay with this, on top of that, we go to sites of collective trauma,
Yeah.
right? So there is also that. We add that mix into it because the guides say that whenever there is conflict that happens on the earthly plane, it leaves a mark, almost like a scar, especially if it was an intense or violent conflict, that basically holds that trauma or like these lower frequencies in the field of that country or in the field of that energy line. It's almost like, imagine as a human being, if you had an accident and you have recovered from the accident, but the wound hasn't really healed properly.
Mhm.
You didn't go to a physical rehab and you didn't really do like the work that you need to do to really heal from that accident. So
Mhm.
it kind of continues to linger.
Mhm.
And there is a lot of those lingering energies all around the world at these collective trauma sites. So that's part of the Earth Keepers work that we do.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and it's interesting because you're talking about the different networks. Can you share a little bit more about what we as Evolution One have signed up for? Because we're agnostic, right? We're non-denominational. We're not just reigniting the Roman Catholic grid or anything
Mhm.
like that. Can you share a little bit more about what the guides are asking us to do within the Earth's energetic grid?
Yeah, excellent question. Basically, what the guides said was that the Earth's energetic grid operates as it does and supports humanity and society. The grid that the guides are developing is almost like a meta grid. It's like
Mhm.
a grid above all of the other networks that they call the ascension grid. They say, and I have heard a lot of different names for something similar. Some people talk about the crystalline grid, sometimes some people talk about the, you know, Christ consciousness grid, and so on. There's like many different names that people have for what maybe the guides are referring to as the ascension grid. So what we are creating is a grid that is on top of the existing grids. So it doesn't necessarily change the existing grids, but it operates additionally to them at a very high frequency to hold these different pillars, energetic pillars, across the entire globe together. And why is that necessary? Well, the guides are saying, you know, a lot of us in our community, we're doing healing work, we're doing growth work, we're doing transformational work, we're doing self realization work. But not everyone around the planet has access to that. Not everyone will actually get on that journey.
Right.
And not everyone is part of that type of growth that we have signed up for.
Mhm.
But if we do this type of ascension grid, what happens is that entire regions start to be affected by that high frequency that is being held and basically bringing forth a transformative energy in those fields where people are affected by that high frequency energy.
Mhm.
So the ascension grid is something that is being built on top of the existing grid. And it is requiring the attunement of some of these sites, it's requiring the activation of dormant sites, it's requiring the cleanup of some of these sites, and
Mhm.
so on. So, in like being energetic cell towers being established to create a network that connects all of the sites around the globe to each other and with each other to serve all of humanity
Mhm.
so that no one is left behind in this process of evolution. Everyone is supported with the energy that moves across the planet.
Right. Whether they're conscious of it or not.
In this case, yes.
Mhm. It's beautiful. Most of our community has never been on an expedition. So, do you want to maybe share a bit about how we choose the sites? Like, how do we even come to the idea that we're going to go to these 11 sites and not every site in the world, or sites that we would imagine that humanity would imagine, well, like, of course you have to go to that site, right?
Sure. So, in the early days, when the guides started to talk about it, they broke it down. They said, okay, we're going to make you go to these regions first and then this region. So, there is a certain flow of energy that moves across the planet. And they wanted us to follow a particular path of going to these regions and then going to these sites in these regions. And because we've been doing Middle East and we've been doing Europe, the Mediterranean, and we've been moving into Europe, and then we've started another pathway which is Central America in both directions.
Mhm.
And we've done Costa Rica and we've done Guatemala, and naturally the next stops are Belize and Mexico.
Mhm.
And it's interesting, there's also a historic connection between all of these sites, right? So Guatemala has had a major um, Mayan civilization that really impacted and created a powerful network.
Right.
And there was also Mayan civilization in Belize and in Mexico as well.
Mhm.
So, with following that line, Belize was a natural next stop.
Mhm.
And when it comes to Belize, what we do is we do some extensive research. We talk to archaeologists, we talk to historians, we do an online research. So our team is very active in trying to find the most powerful
Mhm.
sides of myth, legend, religion, nature, collective trauma.
Mhm.
So then we get like this massive list,
Mhm.
and then we go through the list with Emmanuel. And Emmanuel says, we want you to go to this side, not this side, but this side, right? They have like this yes, maybe, no list
Yeah.
that we then follow. The most important sides are obviously the yes sides, right? We try to reach all of the yes sides, be it in person or remotely.
Mhm. Yeah, and this is going to be our first remote expedition. Um, again, not a lot of our community has been on an expedition, but some of those who have done the digital passports have experienced the work, and you've been on site. So, do you have any sense of what we might expect as remote expeditioners, all remote, and how that might be different, or maybe not different at all?
It's a good question. I think one of the elements here is when we go to sacred sites, there is always there are always variables, right?
Hmm.
The weather, the sensitivity of the locals,
Yeah.
the navigating difficult terrain to get to a certain place,
Hmm.
um, potentially navigating local spirits and traditions and being respectful to what is existent there, etc.
Hmm.
But when we do it remotely, there is really no such boundaries.
Mm.
So it gives us a little bit more freedom to navigate with our consciousness these places. Now, some people say, of course, you know, we'd prefer to travel all of this to all of the sacred sites in the world.
Yeah.
But realistically, if we want to make this work happen as quickly as possible, as effectively as possible, we won't be able to travel to all of the sacred sites on this planet.
Sure.
Some of the sites are not even accessible for humans. They are so deep in the jungle, or they're only reserved for archaeologists, or they're only reserved for people of a specific religion. So, sometimes we just don't have access to them.
Yeah.
And it was interesting when the guides first said, initially, I have to be at least at these sacred sites to be able to do these attunements and to establish a point in the ascension grid at that site.
Hmm.
They also said that in the following years, it will be possible for us to do sacred site work or this grid work that we do remotely from wherever we are. And so that was an interesting process where we basically trained a lot of people to become earth keepers. We
Hmm.
trained them how to establish a consciousness bridge or a bond with sacred sites around the world. Feel what it's like to be in constant communication and in an energetic relationship with these sacred sites around the world,
Hmm.
and see how that affects their life. And as you know, people have been powerfully affected by
Yeah.
this bond and the connections that they have learned to build and to develop,
Hmm.
even if they have never visited that site in person,
Yeah.
physically.
Yeah.
Because some people, they may not have the means to go and travel to some of these sacred sites.
Hmm.
They may not have the physical capability to go to some of these sacred sites.
Hmm.
There may be certain boundaries. Certain countries don't allow citizens of other countries to enter and so on. So there are certain things that may not be possible for people to experience these sites in person. Being able to remotely connect to these sacred sites becomes a very handy tool for us,
Yeah.
because our consciousness is a powerful mechanism that
Hmm.
allows us to make this type of work possible. And
Yeah.
so we're learning how to utilize our consciousness for this type of magnificent work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be incredible, and those who have experienced and been through the Earth Keepers training, in the month of January, we're gonna be practicing what we learned as well to strengthen that bond so that we can be ready
Mhm.
for this all remote Belize expedition. So it's gonna be really cool. Um, I wanna get to the transmission, but before I do, I wanna talk a little bit about the Mexico expedition and how that is going to be a little bit different as well because of the capabilities that are growing within the community and even the capabilities that are growing within you. So do you wanna share a little bit about what's gonna be happening June 2025 in that expedition?
June 2025, there will be a group of humans, Earth Keepers, going to a part of Mexico, which is most likely going to be the Yucatan Peninsula, where there is very powerful sacred sites that many have heard of before and maybe many have visited before.
Mhm.
And that's part of training, it's part of growth, as well as there will be an opportunity for people to do those sacred sites remotely if
Mhm.
they can't travel to Mexico with the Evolution One team.
Mhm.
The key differentiator is I won't be on that trip. I will be tuning in to the sacred site work of that trip remotely. So this time, some people will go there in person, but I will be tuning in remotely for the sacred site work. And that will also be a new format that we haven't had before. And that's part of creating a certain level of independent power within our Earth Keepers.
Mhm.
We want them to be able to go to sacred sites and do this attunement work without necessarily me being part of it.
Mhm.
But still, with the supervision of yourself, Crystal, as well as the individuals who have been for a very long time with us on this journey, who've been to many sacred site expeditions, it will be still a very potent experience full of existing wisdom and knowledge that will be exchanged by those that are a bit more, let's say, experienced,
Mhm.
seasoned is the right word.
Mhm.
And there'll be a lot of learning as a result of that. So, what I find always fascinating is when you go physically to a place, you have to navigate the circumstances.
Mhm.
When I'm there, of course, I have an intuition or I have the guides telling me, okay, do this instead of that, or go to this spot within the sacred site. That's the most potent place. Or here is where some trauma is stored. So I go and then people follow me.
Right.
But in this one, right, it's going to be a little different.
Yes.
So everyone's going to have to be connected and attuned and listening to their intuition and collaboratively making a decision on where they want to go, where they want to sit, and where they want to do this attunement work.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, in that sense, very, very interesting to see.
Yeah, when you and I first talked about it, and I asked, what do you think about the efficacy of the work that we could potentially do? And I was so touched by the way that you're so humble, and you said, well, at at the best, the work will get done, and at the worst, you'll have an incredible adventure, and you'll be able to share experiences, and you'll all learn something. And anything that hasn't been done can just be cleaned up, no problem, right? So there was just this really beautiful, open nature about what you were saying. And I think it's a beautiful signal to our earth keepers in service, our pillars of light in service, that you have the power, we have the power. And it's time for us to take this technology that we've been given within ourselves, within all of the alignments, within the initiations, and really start to test drive it and see what comes out of it. So I'm really excited for that trip. I'm sad you're not gonna be there, but, I am really excited for that.
I'll be there by
I
spirit.
know, I know, I know.
I'll be
You're
there by spirit.
yeah,
You know, um, it'll be incredibly challenging for us to service all of humanity and all of the world if we don't empower other humans to step up,
absolutely.
right? So
Mhm.
it's really this work that we do with the guides is all about the empowerment of the individual,
Yeah,
including them becoming pillars of light, including them becoming earth keepers, including them becoming conscious creators. And that has to also be applied and utilized.
yes,
And how else? I mean, what is a better training than going there with you and the supervision experience of yourself?
Mhm.
and with some of our most seasoned earth keepers, and to experience that in this way.
Yeah.
So it is a journey of empowerment, it is a journey of training, and as you said, it'll be a fantastic adventure.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to be a great up leveling, I think, within our community. 2025, I think, is going to hold some amazing things for us and for you too.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to share before we go into a channeling?
I want to share that, obviously I've given a lot of information, and maybe some individuals are hearing this for the first time, and it's a lot. It's a maybe overwhelming. All of this is like, I don't know what to do. Like, sure, I can join a meditation, but what is exactly happening? How am I going to do? How am I going to participate? How am I going to contribute? And I'll say this, that in all of our work, we make it so that it is easy for newcomers to join and to follow
Yeah.
with us, to follow the energy, follow the intuitive feeling of what's happening, and then also share these experiences with each other. So there will be opportunities in this Belize expedition. So we'll do sacred sites on one day. Maybe we show that screen first, huh? How
Sure.
about that?
Yeah. Alfredo, can you pull up the schedule? And
Yes, there we go. So the whole expedition starts on February 4th. And so there will be an opening and preparation practice. And on the next day, we'll go basically remotely to 4 sites in Belize. There will be short breaks in between so you can recover and integrate. And then we'll close up for the day. So it'll be like one site after another. And at some sites, there will be a transmission delivered. And we'll hear from the guides why this site is important or what kind of significance it has. The next day after that, there'll be a sharing circle so that people can basically share experiences and hear and listen to other people's experiences, compare notes. And the next day is better for that because there'll be a bit of time to integrate it, right? And then we go back into the field of projecting our consciousness and doing these attunements. And, during these attunements, we'll show some of the pictures of these sites because as we see a picture of the site, we can reference it. It's almost like, you know, a key to a door,
mhm.
right? A picture becomes a key to a door. And these pictures or videos that we're going to show for each of the sites will allow us to know, okay, this is the place that we're going to with our consciousness. And then another sharing circle, and then we're going to complete the the 12 sites on Monday, February 10th. And then we're going to have on February 11th our closing Q&A and the container completion. So it is a power packed 8-day experience. I think even if we were to travel to Belize, it'll be very difficult to do 12 sites in 8 days. Very difficult.
Agreed.
So it already shows how much more effective and um, transformative this type of work can be
Yeah.
as a result of this format. And
Yeah.
it's a new format that we can then extrapolate to other countries, to certain special events, special sacred sites that need momentary or temporary help and assistance. And our community is already doing that. So this is a fascinating adventure and experiment and expedition in that way.
Agreed. Fascinating indeed. And if there are folks that cannot do this live, we'll have immediate replays, correct? I would assume.
I would say so. So, because of the time zone differences of our community, everyone is, all around the planet. People can join, do these attunements after the recording has been delivered. And I can guarantee you that even doing it as a recording, you'll feel the transformative energy because it's imprinted in the recording. The recording is another key to a door. right? And the door of that is that attunement work, that transformational energy that comes through. Something really special happens when people go on sacred site missions. And you've seen this, Crystal, right? It's
Yeah,
life changing.
they're my favorite.
No matter where you go, which country it is, which sacred sites there are, it is always life changing. And I've always wondered, why is that? Why is sacred site work that seemingly is outside of us, right? We're doing it for the place or for humanity, but it has such a huge impact on us.
Mhm.
And it is because when we start doing these attunements and the energy starts to move through us, there is a transformative energy that impacts our entire being.
Yeah.
We are lit up, we are connected to a really, really powerful energy source we may have never felt before, living in the cities that we live or being in the societies that we have been.
Mhm.
So suddenly we feel the power of the divine expressed at a sacred site. That changes us.
Yeah.
And most people still talk about their sacred earth expeditions.
Oh, yeah.
They still say this is some of the most significant spiritual work that they have ever done. And that makes me very happy because I've always felt that way, but I wondered, will other people have the same powerful experience that I have?
Yeah.
Or probably in your case, that you have, right?
Oh, absolutely. They're some of the most transformative immersions that I've ever experienced. And I think part of the reason is because I'm practicing amidst everyday life. I'm
Mhm,
practicing amidst the chaos. I'm practicing,
mhm,
amidst uncertain conditions and moving parts. And
mhm.
yeah, it's beautiful.
It it really forces us to be very, very present, right?
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
sometimes Google Maps tells us, okay, this is the path to go to. And then our bus driver says, there is no road or the road is closed. And then he goes like through the mountains for hours. And, sometimes we arrive at a site and it's supposed to be closed because we didn't make it on time.
Mhm.
And then for some reason, one of the stewards of the site is still there and he's like, I've been waiting for a private group to come, but it's only for them. And then as the private group comes, these guys are like, you know you guys seem like nice people, why don't you join us in our private tour that we're going to do in this monastery?
Mhm.
And we're like, oh wow, the doors have just opened for us,
Yeah,
how amazing is that, despite the place was supposed to be closed.
yeah,
So you have to be very present and very attuned to what is versus what you have planned.
yeah. And what I'm curious about with Belize is it it's a place that people do visit.
Mm,
I've been there personally myself, and I'm curious to see if people do ultimately members of our community who have taken part in this do ultimately go to Belize and visit a sacred site or two, what they will experience when they get there.
mm.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always the possibility for people to travel by themselves, right?
Yeah.
And try to synchronize as we're doing these.
Mhm.
And but that's really up to them to do that.
Mhm.
But yes, we have had many individuals that have gone to the sacred sites that I had been
Yes.
before in the past. And it's become almost like a map of sacred earth
Yes.
sites around the globe that people loved to visit.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
And
do you remember?
training plus, the training that they've gotten,
Yeah.
plus the work that we have done ahead of the game there, the
Mhm.
combination of that really just gave them such an incredible experience.
Yeah. I mean, even Hawaii, do you remember when we went to Hawaii and
Mhm,
we were doing the sites and then the group that was there, they just went back like day after day? Or Guatemala,
mhm,
when we originally did our expedition,
mhm,
then a few years later, we brought people back to Antigua for the Pillars of Light in Service initiation, and they wound up going to different sites around the country that we had activated and we had been to, and they felt a very special energy there. So,
Yeah, so in that sense, going back to sacred sites is not a bad thing. It's an
mhm,
amazing thing.
yeah,
And, in that sense, doing the transmissions again after they're completed live, being
mhm,
doing it as a replay is going to be equally as powerful for
yeah,
most people.
yeah, it'll be amazing.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I feel really excited about what's unfolding for us in the next 8 months.
I feel the same way. And we may even have another sacred earth expedition in this 2025 year. So it's very interestingly focused on sacred earth work. And I feel it's because of the acceleration that we're going through as humanity
Mhm.
and because of the scale that the sacred earth grid work allows us to have on humanity's evolution.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I've spoken plenty.
I know, we could just keep talking about this. We should have made this 2 hours. Maybe we'll do another one before Belize.
Maybe we'll do another one if enough people are interested.
There you go. All right. Well, I'm going to leave you then. I'm going to leave you to it, your transmission, and I'll see all of you after the transmission to close out.
Sounds good. See you later. I invite you to join me in entering into a present state, into a silent state, taking a couple of deep breaths to center yourself, to ground yourself, and to expand yourself. In these present states, we create a field, an energetic field together, a field of receptivity, a field of possibility. And every breath that we take deeper and deeper brings us to a state of presence, building upon the previous state, deepening our connection with the earth, strengthening that grounding, deepening our connection to the universe and all of existence, and strengthening that expansion. Greetings. We are Elohim. In this transformation that humanity is undergoing, in this ascension process, the awakening is essential. The awakening of humanity is fueled by the rising energies on this earthly plane. The rising energies are stabilized into this earthly field by the energetic grid of this planet. The functioning, the orderly distribution of this energy that rises is of significant importance to human consciousness as a collective. The rising energies on the earthly plane are harmonized and balanced as a result of the structuring and attunement of this earthly grid. All of humanity has the potential to receive the benefits of the rising energies when harmonized appropriately. Many efforts have contributed to the Earth's grid. This is our effort. This is your effort to support the Earth's grid in its development, in its evolution, and in its final support to human consciousness. All sacred sites, all nodal points, all sites of energetic significance will flourish, will operate at their most and highest potential. The transformational work that undergoes at these sacred sites to integrate them into the ascension grid also affects and impacts you as an individual performing and supporting this work. Whenever this type of transformational work occurs, you as an individual participating in the field that is created for this attunement receive the energies, the frequencies that move through the opening that is established. You are therefore the first recipients of a sacred site operating at its highest potential. Parts of you activate along with the activation of the site. Your energy body is fueled, nourished, resourced in a way that the standard operation of the human form can never provide. At times, outside energy sources can be a significant fuel and mechanism to support your individual evolution. Many of you will experience healings on a mental, emotional, physical, and energetic level. Many of you will have completions of past life experiences. Many of you will have completions of this current life. Many of you will have insights and realizations that will support you on your path forward. Therefore, your service to this ascension grid is your service to yourself. Directly and indirectly, you affect all aspects of your life. Directly and indirectly, you affect humanity's collective evolution. Directly and indirectly, you affect the evolution of the Earth's consciousness as well. All living beings are affected by this transformational support that you can provide together and with our assistance. The country that you will be exploring, Belize, has been the home for significant civilizations. Most recognizable, the Mayan civilization. The Mayan civilization carried deep and intrinsic connections with otherworldly consciousness and civilization. This bond provided for significant knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of life and of consciousness. Yet, as this bond was deemed no longer beneficial to the civilization that was becoming overly dependent on this connection and on this bond, the civilization itself found a challenge to be overcome. How does an human operate on the earthly plane when no longer a significant divine presence guides? How does a human evolve when this divine intelligence is no longer present? Where is power derived from? Where is direction and leadership derived from? Where are values emergent and established from? The Mayan civilization went through its own completion process and left the world with significant inheritance as well as many questions and mysteries. Yet you are not here to solve mysteries. You're here to connect to these sites that have carried significant bonds before. You are here to activate these bonds, re-attune, realign, so that these sites can serve once more all of humanity, no matter the history and the past that once was. Some of these sacred sites are sites of energetic significance, yet recognized as nature's most pure and prevalent sites. Nature represents itself in many different ways on Earth and signals its potency through biodiversity, through life force, through the elements that are present, through the movements of the environment. An indescribable yet recognizable power is present that all humans ultimately will feel in the presence of that sight. When you enter an expedition of this kind, know that the expedition itself is an expedition into your deepest unconscious. Your transformation is intrinsically tied to the transformation of the land, to the transformation of these sacred sites, the establishment of this energetic grid. despite the mental learnings, realizations of the soul, integrations, and an upleveling of your being is imminent. Not only you, but all humans in the field of this country, as well as the countries neighboring these sites, will be affected by this work. The ripples will expand across the earthly plane, across the grid that has served humanity since its inception and will serve humanity until its completion on this earth. For a moment, center yourself to connect with this country of Belize. For a moment, feel the humans that live, the humans that once lived, the humans that will live. For a moment, connect to the nature, the waters, the forests, the mountains, the spirits of the landscape, the ecosystems that provide a natural balance. For a moment, connect to the unprocessed past that has been carried from generation to generation. Continue to witness neutrally. Feel the possibility of change and transformation as you feel the power of these sacred sites once again connected to each other and to all of the sacred sites around the world. When energy moves, it transforms. Consciousness evolves. A new life force is present. New openings, new expansions become part of the journey for all humans affected by this field. Prepare yourselves mentally, emotionally, physically, and energetically for this upcoming journey so you can co create, you can receive this work in its best possible way. Thank you for listening to our words. This transmission is complete. Take a couple of deep breaths. You may want to stay in this meditative state, receiving this beautiful energy that is present with us, and letting the words integrate. We are supported to become earth keepers, stewards of the earth, and supporters of humanity's evolution. That is a journey of privilege, of honor, of beauty. Our expansion is intrinsically tied. Our evolution is directly connected to this work that we do for the earth and for humanity. Thank you all.
Welcome back. Take your time as you slowly return to your body, allowing the insights and energy from this transmission to settle within you. As Asil mentioned, if you'd like to remain in this space, feel free to turn off your device and stay in this state for as long as you need. For those returning to your day, bring your awareness back to your breath. Notice the sensations, the air moving in and out. Gently bring your attention to your surroundings, where you are in the world. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Hello. Thank you for being with us for this transmission and this talk. If you're inspired to continue this journey, I encourage you to join us for our Belize remote expedition that begins February 2025. I invite you to continue with us into our next cycle of Earth Keepers training in March and April. And I invite you to integrate all this training in June on the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico with us. You can sign up immediately for the Belize expedition by using the link in the chat or the QR codes that Alfredo will share with us now. And we'll send more information about the Mexico expedition and the Earth Keepers training very soon, so keep an eye on your inbox. We've just now received the information about the Mexico sites, so we'll be putting something together for you in the next week or two. 2025 is truly going to be a year of empowerment, up-leveling. I'm so excited to be ringing this new year in with you. Thank you again for your presence and your energy today. I can really feel the enthusiasm emanating within this grid system. It fills my heart with gratitude. Take care, and we'll see you very soon.